I'm Greg Jarrett for FoxNews.com. The possibility that as many as 6 members of a terrorist cell involved in the Paris attacks may still be at large has law enforcement and intelligence officials on high alert for their potential whereabouts. How difficult will it be to track these potential terrorists? Joining us now to talk about it is the former head of the CIA's Directorate of Operations, Jack Devine, also author of the book Good Hunting, an American spy master's story. I want to ask you about that at the very end. But, so how do you track these guys down?
I think the first question is how professional are they? And the early readout was they were very experienced and highly professional. I've been agnostic at best about it. You don't leave your identification behind.
Right.
And it doesn't look like they had an exit plan. The shooters didn't.
Right.
A real pro is, not going to make that kind of mistake and will have an exfiltrate. How do I get out of that country in one piece? Unless they thought, look, we're going to die as martyrs, we're going to shoot it out. So I'm not sure, and I don't think anyone is just yet, how complicated their security structure is to protect them. The French are very good. Their police and domestic intelligence service, I think they have a very good handle on the populace. They're moving very quick. The big problem they face is if they get out of France, then you can expect a very long time in running them down. Yeah. And you may remember back in '93, there was a Pakistani terrorist by the name of Kanzi who killed 2 CIA people in front of CIA headquarters when I was in the building that day. It took 4 years, but he had gotten to Pakistan. And you remember the Jackal, that
Right.
took almost 20 years. So once they're out of your country,
Sure.
and particularly if they head back into Syria or the Middle East, it then becomes a really big problem. So the timeline on this and the urgency is the key problem they face, is getting it done as quick as possible. But I think there's signs that they're pulling every plug they can.
Well, as you point out, the French intelligence is highly regarded, and yet, even though they had a bead on the Karachi brothers, these terrible and tragic events occurred. A lot of Americans have been watching this story wondering, is our intelligence community better at discovering and tracking these potential terrorists than the French? What's your answer to that?
I think it's a very hard thing to calibrate. I think we're very good, but I also think the French and the British and those that have the problem have gotten very good on it. But the reality of today is, frankly, this could have happened after 9/11. There's no high art form. We're not talking weapons of mass destruction. A couple AK-47s are at easy disposal to most ill-minded people, if you will. So when I was reading an article, it was quite interesting. It said about 1,000 Frenchmen have gone to war zones in the jihad.
Yes.
And have come back in one form or another. That's a large body, plus their friends.
Oh,
so
sure,
monitoring them, and monitoring them 24/7, for anyone that's ever done surveillance, and our FBI does it better than anybody I know, if you surveil somebody 24/7, you're probably going to lose them a couple times during the day.
Sure,
it's just that hard, even with large numbers of people. So how do you monitor 1,000 people?
Right.
It's a question of numbers and priorities. And they did watch them for the first couple of years. Nothing happened. From 2011 when he came back, so they said, okay, we put him on the back burner.
Right.
Someone else surely was probably a more active person. So it's, I'd be the last one to criticize. And I think it speaks to the fact that we have to realize that there is no perfect protection.
Sure.
So we are, we in a democratic society where we're holding on to our democratic values are vulnerable. And we should expect to see more of this, not only in France, but I think it's hard to say that it won't happen here.
Are our needs cybersecurity, good old-fashioned shoe leather on the ground, both? What is it now?
Well, I think the world of technology has changed intelligence completely, and America has invested heavily in it. And I would like to think, you asked earlier who was the best service, but I certainly think in the technology arena, I think we're at the forefront of it. But that only takes you so far. You read messages, but if they're not communicating that way, and many of them have gotten smarter on that, you don't have anything to read. You need human sources, and it's one of the hardest things to do, to get somebody in the old days inside the Kremlin, and as we were talking earlier, it was actually easier than getting someone in a small village that's a terrorist, and getting a handle on them is extremely hard. Your best defense is to have sources inside the plotting groups.
Right, which is a tough thing to do. By the way, your book, Good Hunting, An American Spymaster's Story, am I going to learn about covert action if I read your book?
Well, I assume you know a lot, but I think you may learn a thing or two. But at least there's principles about when do you use it, because I'm an advocate. You'll find a lot of people that defend it. I don't only defend it, I'm an advocate, and I think, but that means under certain conditions. But there has to be something between our military solutions and our diplomatic, and we've used it since the beginning of the creation of our country. But you have to use it smartly. You have to have principles to operate, and I think the book goes into it by using some of the examples where I made mistakes and where others did things well, and I was there.
I've got to read that. I just finished a book, as I told you, on the Cold War, so I'm looking for a new one. I'm going to go out and get Good Hunting, An American Spymaster's Story by Jack Devine. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me here.
Okay. For more on this developing story, stay with FoxNews.com. I'm Greg Jarrett. Thanks for watching.